Welcome, friends, to the Pioneers of the Independent Networks. I'm your host, Ricky Blues. And friends, if you've joined us in the past, you know that we bring you all the characters, the matches, the feuds that populated the Mid-Atlantic independent wrestling scene from the 1970s to today. And over the last 2 episodes, we've had the privilege to be able to speak with Nick Tarantino about his career. And this week, we continue the final leg of that journey with Nick Tarantino.
You and Dave really develop the Goodfellas gimmick, and I mean, you become very mobile, like you've talked about, traveling to those different areas and those different territories and expanding, just out of the Mid-Atlantic. You also go to, I think it's Florida, right, to WCW for a couple, I don't want to say like a tryout, but you were able to get there and get evaluated. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Bob Starr, Bob Campany, was grabbing talent to go down for TV enhancement work. So Dave and I went down with our gimmicks, like instead of just, like the gimmicks, the Goodfellas gimmicks, and we're able to be put into tag team positions. So that's where we wrestled like the Fantastics and the Nasty Boys and Harlem Heat and quite a few others. Stars and Stripes was another one. And we were getting looked at by Jody Hamilton at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we were down there to do some enhancement because we wrestled some single stuff, but any of the tag stuff was meant kind of as a measuring stick. And I remember, that's where Dave and I, or myself particularly, fostered a friendship with Booker T.
Right.
That period of time, and his brother Stevie Ray. And we, I don't say became close, but we respected each other. Because I wouldn't want to put that on Booker T. But at the end of the day, Booker T was doing an interview for the WCW magazine, and they were talking about tag teams you want to wrestle. And they listed us as the third tag team. It's kind of like a ha-ha, but also some respect.
Right, that's awesome.
Like a shout-out. And there we were called the Sicilians because of the copyright movie for the Goodfellas. Okay. So they called us the Sicilians up there. We were also, so we came home from a trip, and we were feeling pretty good about it, and we ended up getting a phone call. And the phone call was, we want you guys to work the pre-show for Super Brawl 5. Super Brawl 5 was emanating out of the, whatever it's called now, but it was the Baltimore Civic Center, might be the Baltimore Arena now, or vice versa. But, and the big match was Hogan Vader was on top. So they used to do an hour of Sunday night television that then rolled into the pay-per-view. So the main event was going to be Stars and Stripes against the Goodfellas, or well, the Sicilians. So, and we would be there with the pay-per-view guys. So we got there for the pay-per-view. We got there to the time or whatever, and it was a little nerve-wracking, all the stars, Sting, Dusty Rhodes, everyone's there, right?
Right.
And we're asking where Bagwell and Del Wilkes, the Patriot, are, because we had filmed a really good relationship with them, and this is like the 4th time we've been working them. Mm-hmm. And they're in catering. So they pointed us, and we started to go down. And Del Wilkes, I'll never forget the visuals. We cut the corner. Bagwell's sitting on a rolling case eating ice cream, and Del Wilkes is like throwing shit around the arena. And I'm like, so welcome to, hey brother, what's going on? To Bagwell. And Bagwell goes, oh, I guess you guys didn't hear what's happening. Now, for the briefest of moments, I'm like, we're going over? I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, well, no, what happened? And he said, they've cut our match. So the match was to be 12 minutes, and that was part of the other part. Like, we felt this was like a big time tryout, right? I mean, national television, main event. It was called Sunday Night's Main Event, and we were getting 12 minutes with a quality team, which means we weren't going to do a squash. We were going to get some of our stuff in. So that would give us a chance to showcase ourselves a little bit, along with the selling and the business pieces we talked about, timing, everything else, which was what they were looking for. So I guess the pay-per-view buy rate was down, and they changed the end of that to have Vader come out and basically annihilate all of us.
Oh, wow.
So we went out, and I'll be honest with you, Vader had just broken that kid's back 2 or 3 weeks prior.
Right.
So there was some nervousness. And truthfully, Dave, I think, was a little more nervous than I was. Because I still felt like I could take care of myself out there. So the way it went down was I started the match and I stayed in with Bagwell, and they still got the pin because they wanted to make sure they got it. So they got the pin, honestly, in 2 minutes. But Bagwell was on, like, Bagwell did his, like, one spot and then tell Doug in, or Dell in, I should say. And then he gave me his finish, and he was like, just let me know when he's coming. Right? That's all Dell's for. And I'm laying there underneath him. And I can hear the three go down, and I can see Bagwell, like, he's there and then he's gone, which later when I saw the tape, he got yanked off the apron, got a couple shots from Vader, and in comes Vader. I don't know if you've ever been next to this cat, but he's all of 400 pounds. And he goes to drop an elbow. Now, Del Wilkes has got to be 270. At the time, I'm 240, 260. This guy hit Del Wilkes with an elbow that I felt through Del Wilkes. So he was already peeked off the Del, I guess, and just murdered him. Del stands up, takes a power bomb, or like we roll off each other. He does some stuff. He hits Dave. Dave takes a bomb. He hits Del with a power bomb, which Del like hits, no sells, and leaves. He hits me with a power bomb, and then Dave's supposed to get one, but Dave just takes a punch and kind of hits the ground. And then the referee, Pee Wee Anderson, helps us sell to the back. And I remember them saying he's coming, like fans were saying he's coming. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I hope this doesn't turn into a prompto power bomb on the stage. But we made it back before he got up to us. And you know, that ended up being part of our tryout. And there was, you know, some mitigating circumstance with that because the people were supposed to do some other things that didn't happen. But that was at least a look at the Sicilians, you know.
Right.
On that level, Dave and I were both obviously appreciative to have that opportunity. I'll never know why we didn't go further than that. I know there was plans to, but it also there was changes at the top, so who knows?
Exactly. Well, one of the things too, Nick, and not to bring this down, but I mean to always address everything that happened.
Sure.
Dave succumbs to his demons, and you're kind of left alone after that. And I mean, I miss Dave to this day. I know you do. He helped me out a lot. He helped us out, and I know he helped you out a lot. But right around the corner for you starts a whole nother, I guess, singles career, and that would be what happened in Maryland Championship Wrestling. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that because your nickname became, or your gimmick name became, the Cornerstone. And brother, my opinion, you held that together and you gave that a great foundation. So I want to talk just about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I say that, let me just say this about Dave. There would be no Romeo Valentino without Dave DeMeglio, the man, right? Now, I wouldn't be half the guy I was in the business. You know, hopefully I did the business well without him. It was a difficult period just in this. Not only was I seeing my business piece break, I was seeing a guy that was close to me like a brother. And when you're up and down the road like that, it's almost like he was married to a beautiful woman, but he was also married to me because we were up and down the road. So I know we like to say succumb to demons, and that is what happened with Dave, but I will say this, he's hugely missed.
Yep.
I love him to this day, and the end wasn't great, but everything that led up to the end was amazing. And I think too many people want to talk about the end and don't want to talk about the fact of what a great ring technician he was, what a great friend he was, and what a great human being he was. You can't let those last year or two taint your vision of what he was and what he was in his business.
Exactly. Agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so with MCW, I can't tell you who or what made the decision. It came back to me that Axel made the decision, but they did like a kayfabe tournament, and they put the belt on me, which was a great honor. The way the Genesis MCW started, and without getting to the MCW or MEWF, had some talent left there and created another league. To say it in the easiest way. And then there was like a competition, so to speak. A lot of the people I knew were in MCW, so I went there. And they gave me that. I don't know why they decided it or how they decided it. I hope it was for the right reasons, but that's what I was given that ball. So a lot of the early stuff we had to make up. I don't want to say make up. We had to come up with our own things because a lot of it was run like a spot show. So the Cornerstone came actually with Shane Douglas in the franchise, right? So he was another guy I really liked, and I did pattern his boots after mine. That was one thing I stole from him. But I had to cut a promo, and the way I did promos was I would think a lot about what I wanted to say, and throughout the days, the day with days leading up, I would kind of talk like I did a lot of traveling, so I would like either cut the promo in the car by myself or whatnot, yada yada yada, and just to work on some things, and then I would just from the hip bring what I had at the time. And I was thinking about different words, and I even say this in the promo when I got it. Like, they talk about icon, franchise, legend, da-da-da. And I just, what is a word that nobody uses comes up with that? And my grandfather was in architecture. And he always talks about the cornerstone of a building, right? And how it's called the cornerstone because it holds up the rest of the building, so to speak. It's the foundation of it. And this was a brand new company, and that just resonated with me. So when I cut this promo, I was off the tip. They didn't have any idea I was going to say it. And I went through that whole thing, and I said, Cornerstone. And I went, hold on a second, let's go back to that. I.e., see Romeo and Valentino, and then I went off with this, and I was in a feud with Ronnie, Zucko, and Candy, so I went on to what that was about. And from that, Axel took it because he was the one running the video. Axel Jeff Jones was running video production back then,
right.
And I was on the posters as a Cornerstone, and it definitely stuck. I mean, I had a great time running on top. I got to wrestle RJ. The Bruiser, R.J. Meyers, who unfortunately has just passed away, lost his battle with leukemia, another man I love very much. I saw him from a different standpoint. He was a young kid coming up, right? So I got an opportunity when I worked him to give him his voice, but also help shape part of his voice. So that was awesome. Got to wrestle guys like Jimmy Cicero. They brought in the headbangers, Glenn and Chaz, right? So Chaz, I believe Glenn was down with an injury, if I remember correctly, so Chaz was getting some time. They were still on WWE contract. So he got some time to do independence, and he came in and worked with us. And he said, I want to work Nick, which, again, when you ask back around, when do you start thinking that you can move forward and you can develop and you're something like that. To be honest with you, I don't think I ever got to, I thought I was all that. I knew I was decent. But when guys like that are like, hey, I'll come in, I want to make sure I'm working out. Guys like Nick, because I want to make sure I'm protected. I mean, if you're on WWE contract and you say that, I mean, you really don't know how else to take that, but hey, it's a big compliment.
Right.
So I got over him, Kong Bundy, worked Axel and Dan. Dan was still actively wrestling at the time, so that just seemed to make sense. I mean, he booked it, obviously, but I mean, that made sense. We did a couple of things that turned into more gimmick stuff, like Falls Count Anywhere, all over building type scenarios, no DQs, that kind of stuff. And then there was Adam Flash, Doug Becker. Got to wrestle him a few times. So that was the early genesis of it, and then I dropped the strap to King Kong Bundy, and that was, I believe, to put some steam on Bundy. But Chris, who was also passed away, I got to wrestle him like 4 or 5 times in MCW, and got to the point where he was another guy who did the same type of match all the time. But I earned his respect to be where he let me do the same 5-minute match, 7-minute match, but embellish it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where I think people don't get to understand. Again, we go back, as we're building this sandwich, we go back to the first layer of, like, taking a tackle from him in the beginning where you run off the ropes and get stopped, and then take the big bump because he leaned into you, was just a big bump. To where I got it to where I was taking a huge bump and then flipping back through the middle ropes and hitting the floor and then taking a slap onto the floor, right? Because you're learning how to sell their stuff, right? It's not always about you. In fact, it's never really about you when you think about putting a story together. So I got, then I won the strap back from him, and that's kind of really where it took off. And what I mean by that was where I was given, like, I didn't really have programs with people. I was being given people every show, and I was able, or I hope I was able, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to elevate those characters along with my own character. I know at the time, some people had a hard time seeing that, but that's where we go back to understanding the business. And the business about like getting Romeo Valentino's character over, but I already had the belt. I was over, so to speak. It's about how can I win this match to keep the belt, but get them over. Because killing off that character does nothing for them, does nothing for me, does nothing for MCW. So hopefully, and I know I was able to accomplish it with most, but like I was with Danny Rose, who's also a good friend of mine, and I hope he would say he got better from art, not only time on the road, but time in the ring. Guys like that, Q Ball Carmichael, things of that nature. Just helping me and me helping them. And that's where I really took that Cornerstone moniker as wasn't really about me being the champ. When you start on top, the only place to go is off the top, right? So what can I do while I'm on the top to make an impact? And I think that worked out, because obviously once I came off, I did I was a TV champion, I was tag team champion, so I was also given the prestige of like, hey, can you run with these and help shine some other people, which really, as a heel, that's your job.
Yep. And I think that goes to the people who were around you, the promoters, the bookers, the people who were building, that they saw that in you in every aspect. Going up and down that ladder, you knew that, or they knew that putting their trust in you to not just get you over, but their product. And that's the thing. It's always about, like you said, building that product, because people don't just come to see you. They see the entire product. And that is, or the brand. And I think that's important when you have a stalwart like you who recognize it's bigger than just me. I'm playing my part. And I think that goes to speak, Nick, about all the years that you were in and able to get so many different inputs from so many people to develop into that professional. And I think today MCW owes, I don't want to say owes you, but I know that they should look back at you and be thankful for how you were able to carry their vision off. Nick, you know, as being on top for as long as you were, that there's always the ability to help develop the talent. And really, that's another portion, that's another load that you carry, is help developing the talent that's coming up. And I'm sure you were also able to give the input of saying, hey, this guy is really heating up, let's keep moving him. You want to talk a little bit about some of the development stuff that you were able to pull off in MCW?
Yeah. So when you're put in the position to be on top, right, it means a lot. But then, of course, those days come to an end. You can't have an independent promotion. You're not having a guy champ for like 5 years. So I had to think to myself, what else can I do to help this product, right? Or to, and stay relevant. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? I was helping Dan and Mark at Bone Breakers help train. So that was always a good piece of it, because then you could help develop younger talent there. And then I thought to myself, like, what can I do on the shows? So Dan's girlfriend at the time, who would eventually be his wife, Kim, was working with a guy named Ronnie Zucko. Ronnie was a student who came out with like the movie Grease gimmick. So they were heels, and then because Kim was so over, or Candy as we came to know her on the Best of Biz, they turned him babyface. So I saw a great opportunity to work an angle there, right, and involve both and elevate both. And the basic genesis of the angle that we ended up agreeing upon was like an old AWA angle where I would keep wrestling Ronnie, and he was the younger, more wildly more aggressive, over the veteran, but I would cheat every time to beat him. So eventually he was like a TV champion or something like that. I took the strap off of him, and then I forced him to put Kim on the line to, wrestle me, which of course I, got over on him again. And then I started trying to quote unquote humiliate Kim, right? So then the big payoff would come to where either he won and then she got to get her comeuppance, or what Kim, who was a natural heel, wanted to do was we both turned on Ronnie. And then we gave Ronnie his comeuppance later on down the road. So just like things like that, that was the first one I got to do. Then I did some stuff. Then Ronnie and I became a tag team to help elevate other, tag teams, right, things of that nature. I turned babyface, that kind of deal. So I helped work with Joey Matthews. I mean, not that, look, Joey didn't need my help, I'll put it that way, but I was one of the people that got to work with him before he became who we know he is now, Joey Mercury.
Right.
I got to wrestle Terry Funk when he came in. I mean, anytime veterans came in, I basically got to wrestle them. And I know, like, Bagwell came in and wrestled Doug Delicious, which that was, he didn't know Doug. I mean, you and I know Doug, so he was in great hands. But he immediately, from the airport to the building, was like, I want to wrestle Nick, that kind of stuff, because he trusted me. So, those were, that's the match racer, right? So you did some things on top. Now you're trying to help elevate other guys, and then, like, stars come in, hey, I'll work them. So your role changes, but the business doesn't. You continue moving forward with helping to elevate, helping to get the product forward. Just to reiterate on something you said, one of the things that I did as the champ, so to speak, was when I got to the building, I put my bag down, I shook everybody's hand in the locker room, I went out to the ring, I shook the guys putting the ring up, concession, promoter, referees, didn't matter who you were. I made sure I didn't want no one had to come and find Nick Tarantino / Romeo Valentino. I went to them, and that wasn't something I did for show. I did that because that's what I was brought up on.
Right.
There was no reason for me to stop and say, okay, you've given me the top spot here, I'm better than everybody else. Because I'm not better than anybody. I'm a cog in a wheel, and I want to make sure that everyone else knows I'm approachable. So those were certain things that, hopefully meant something to other people. Because really, in this world, you don't know what anything means to anybody. You can only speculate unless they tell you.
Exactly. Your time in MCW, just like everyone else, eventually comes to an end, and there's still more left of Romeo Valentino. So you start doing a little bit more traveling too, Nick, if I'm not mistaken. What did you do in your post-MCW career?
Well, it wasn't as glorious or long as the rest of it was, but I had decided I wanted to move to Florida, so I started doing some Hack Meyers.
Absolutely.
Another great brother. He was already in Florida, so I connected with him, and I worked 3 or 4, and Chaz Hebinger Mosh was down here as well. Still, Chaz and Glenn are both still down here. Mm-hmm. We worked some local promotions down here. They weren't, it's not a disrespect, but I mean, it was so few and far between, I don't remember a lot of them, like the actual names of the promotions, but I wrestled, who was the pug? I keep forgetting his name. Do you remember the pug? Alex Portel.
Oh, okay, yes.
I wrestled him. Wow, another underrated guy. Wow, he was great. I wrestled him. Chaz set that up. Wrestled him in Florida. Had a great match. He was like, a little put off because he wanted me to go as a baby face, and I'm like, but I'm like, he's the guy. He's the veteran, so I'll do it. It's like, but once you get past that, which is all ego, what a match. I mean, just his psychology, the way he threw it together, the way we both got over out there, it was amazing. Toured around Jake the Snake a little bit, but I'd seen him on quite a few shows, things of that nature. So I did a little bit down here, and then basically hung it up. And then I think 2 years ago, Joe Abel, or Joe Cool,
right?
He wrote something down here called Fight for a Cure. And it's to benefit cancer. It looks a lot like the MCW Shane Shamrock Cup. I mean, same type of thing, where the benefits go to cancer, and there was a fallen worker down here who succumbed to cancer. So Chris Clow, another kid who is down here,
right,
was on the show. So I told him, hey, listen, I'm 51 years old. Just had gotten came off of being 300 pounds of fat, and got myself into shape. I said, if I can wrestle Chris, I'd love to do it because I'd love to do it for you. And but I also want to make sure that I'm A, not hurting anyone, or B, not getting hurt. So that's what happened, and I worked 6 months into shape and was still not ring shape. And went down there and played the babyface and wrestled my buddy Chris, and we're supposed to go 10, went 12 or 13, and I put him over, and got exactly the reaction we were looking for. It was like riding a bike. Like I hadn't taken a bump in 10 years. I was a 50-year-old guy, and loved every second of it. Was glad to do it.
That is awesome. Well, let me ask you this. Nick, and I mean, this is purely off the cuff. If there ever was an opportunity again, would you get back in?
If it was the right opportunity, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I love the business. I would do anything I could to be a part of the business. I listen to Jim Cornette all the time. He's a great mentor to me, like, from afar, because I only met him once. But like he said, wrestling as we know it is dead. But there's still a small belief in me that it could be alive again, because people still go see movies, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, the conflict of good versus bad, a good character, a bad character, an antagonist, a protagonist, it all still works. Hollywood's been doing it for centuries. So at the end of the day, could someone still buy into it with the internet and everything else done right? Absolutely, and I'll jump at the chance.
Nick, we've had the opportunity to discuss your career over several episodes, and it has been awesome. One of the things I always like to ask, especially the veterans that I've been around, if you have advice for these young kids coming up now, what would be the one piece of advice that you could impart to them to help on their trek through this business?
Mm-hmm. If I had to say anything, I learned a business principle 10 years ago. It's called active listening. So what active listening is, it's not just listening to someone, but actively giving them an opportunity to change your opinion. And I think it goes a long way to listen to your veterans, listen to guys who come up in the business, and take that and mold it to what you're doing. So the long and short answer would be continuously show respect. Understand everyone's opinion doesn't have to be your opinion, but to listen to everybody and give them the opportunity to change the opinion you currently have is how the business grows. If everyone had the same opinion, it'd be a pretty stale product.
Absolute wisdom. Nick, I want to thank you personally for the last couple episodes and the ability to sit and talk to you, someone who I greatly respect, who I admired the work that you did. I loved every minute that we were together in the ring, that we were together in the ring as opponents. But again, it's all about that brotherhood, and you're one of those guys I look back on, and it makes me smile to know that I got to share time in this business with you. So I thank you for volunteering to come on the show and to telling your story. I mean, and it has been awesome. My hat's off to you, brother. My love to you. You know that. Thank you, Nick, so much for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, and that's reciprocal. I mean, thanks for taking a kid who didn't know anything about the business, who's greener than grass, and taking him under your wing and saying, you know what? I see something in you and I got you. So much love. And again, there wouldn't be Romeo Valentino without Dave DeMeglo, but there wouldn't have been a Nick Shark Tarantino without Bill Blake. So, or Ricky Blues, whatever. Watsumi the Rising Sun. Get anything out of the bag. But I appreciate you greatly, my brother. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
So friends, thank you for joining us over the last 3 episodes where we were able to feature the career of Nick Tarantino. And we're reminding you to join us again next week as we take that proverbial stroll down Concussion Lane and bring you one more Pioneer.